So, hello everybody. Today I would like to take a little bit of a look at how to randomly create the environs in your through the Sunken Lands role-playing game using the rules that you can find in the Beyond the Wall and Other Adventures supplement Further Afield. I briefly alluded to how this is done. So after you have created your city and everybody has placed city locations as well as one NPC each on the city map, you will then, you don't have to, but you can then say, okay, let's move on and populate the known world a little bit. So to this end, they also provide you with a grid that you can use to build the landscape. I have actually, because the grid itself is very boring because it's simply just a grid, and we were talking about using some kind of software, some kind of tool. I am going to show you how this is possible and how I would do it using Wonderdraft. Again, this is not free software. Wonderdraft needs to be bought. But you could, of course, do this live in a session virtually because you can just share your screen. So here is our city. Now, how does this populating of the environment work? So how do you create the sandbox? So this is what it says in the rules book. The first step in creating a shared sandbox is making a map. The whole group takes part in this activity, and then the GM takes it home to tweak things and produce a more precise and secret, that's important, final version of the map. This can take some time. So basically, how this works is that each player gets to create one major location. They say the number is up to the group, but I would say start with one because that's plenty. They recommend that the map represents an area around 200 miles across. However, the point is, of course, they're talking about, again, Beyond the Wall, where you have the village in the center and then you go 200 miles across. Seeing as the Sunken Lands or Through Sunken Lands has a much bigger scope because you're talking about a whole continent, you don't really need to think about, is it 200 miles or more? We could say that this is maybe, I don't know, how many squares do we have? Oh, hex is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So 25. So if one was 10 miles, then this would be 250 miles across. And again, of course, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, things like that. And of course, you could add other parts of the map over time. But for today's purpose, I've just created this map, and we can say easily that this is 250 miles across. So each square, each hex is 10 miles, which of course is the fantasy miles, so 1 mile is 1 kilometer. This would make this city extremely large, so we would probably have to tone it down, but it only occupies, as you can see, only occupies half a hex because this is actually a city that is on the sea. So each player marks one major location at a time on the map, and then the player to their left marks the next one, and so forth. So once the players are done creating the major locations for the game, they will then have a chance to embellish one. Each player gets to add one bit of information about one location on the map, but it must be about another player's location. Again, it's a collaborative approach, and it also means that every player will have at least two locations that really speak to them, namely the one that they created themselves and then the one that they embellished. Because obviously, as you're doing this, people may come up with different ideas. Somebody might say, I'm more interested in, and this again depends on how you do it. if you say it's an open free-for-all and you can create whatever you like, people might be creating terrain. Let's say there's a forest, or there's a mountain range, or there's another city, a village, or you can also roll on a table that's in the book. But if I create a forest, this tells my DM a lot of things about me. It tells them I want an outdoorsy adventure. Depending on how I describe the forest, it may be very dangerous, it may be mildly dangerous, but it gives them a clue about the kind of story I want to tell there. If somebody says, oh, I'm going to create a city, and that city is a city of thieves, we know already what kind of adventure they're looking for. They're looking for an urban adventure in a city where people are possibly interested in illegal things, where the people we will be encountering are rogues or roguish. And this gives you as a DM a lot of information about what this person is interested in, possibly sneaking, possibly intrigue, possibly a heist, things like that. You can also say, okay, we are going to roll on the table, which we're going to do for the purpose of this video. Once this is done, the game master will take this rough map home and add several minor locations in between the major ones, determines locations on the map for large regions like forests and mountains, and perhaps develops the major locations in full detail. And this is also where I'm going to give you some tips on how this can be done. But let's take a look at the major locations. This is now from Beyond the Walls, so this may not all be applicable to through Sunken Lands, because you have a major city, ancient ruins, human settlement, recent ruins, monster's lair, source of power, other world, and inhuman settlement. Now, the inhuman settlements, of course, work in Beyond the Wall because you have non-human creatures like dwarves, like elves, like fae. You don't have those in Through Sunken Lands, so we would have to remove this one. The other world, again, only this week, I want to say on the 29th of January 2025, a supplement came out for Through Sunken Lands, the first publication since the original version in 2020, which deals with dreamscapes, dream worlds, planes hopping between planes of the multiverse, and also the other world, as it were. So they've now added this. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I will definitely buy it as soon as it comes out as POD. But to me, that is almost like moving in the wrong direction, because it's getting into the high fantasy thing again. I'm more interested in the other one that they mention in this book called Of Glory and Peril. And I don't know if I'm just not finding this, or if it's going to be released soon. They call it a sister supplement, which is more, again, like Sword and Sorcery. But regardless, let's just say we roll a d6, because we have 6 possibilities, and we're going to do this. And I rolled a 5, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a monster's lair. And I'm going to place this 10, 20, 30, 40 miles. I'm going to place it over here. So it's a 2 days ride. Let's just say we're going to go here. And we're going to add a monster. I know that they have monsters in there. Here we are. We're just going to take this as a sign of a monster. And we're going to take it and we're going to put it here. We're going to scale it up a little. So this is the hex where this monster is. It's a monster's lair. And And it's described as follows: not the home of a single, minor, or even moderately powerful monster. Major location layers are either the dwelling places of a large group of monsters or a well-defended and extravagant home of a particularly powerful foe. So it doesn't even have to be a monster. Considering that this is sword and sorcery, you might well be looking at the tower of some really powerful or some cult temple or something. It says here, examples include a dragon's den, the earthly home of a minor goddess and her servants, or a huge cave system which houses a bewildering array of strange and dangerous creatures not found above the surface. We're talking possibly things like Tomb of Annihilation here, or Elemental Evil, Temple of Elemental Evil. Okay, so now, this is the first thing. So I have created this, randomly created this particular layer. Now I get to describe it. And this is where the mystery part comes in, because obviously if we create this together and if everyone gets to describe a location, when they finally get there, for this particular player and for everybody else who was in this session, which should be everybody because it's this session 0, they know already what's in there. So where's the mystery in that? The mystery comes in because they have to tell us how they found out about it. Did they hear about it? Did they see it? Did they learn about it? Okay, now why is that important? Well, it's important because the way this works is that depending on how you got there, how you got this piece of information, we will roll against the stat of this particular player character. So if they heard it, then we're going to roll against their charisma. If they say they saw it, we will be rolling against their wisdom. And if they say they learned about it, we will roll against their intelligence score. And this means that depending, and you do this as a game master secretly. You don't show them that. You don't let them know how well they did compared to what they were telling you that they had found out through getting information somehow. So, a character who learns about a location has either heard stories and legends from others in the village, or they have read about the location in a book. The role to determine the accuracy of the information is an intelligence check, taking into account any academic skills such as ancient history or folklore. Now, we created a character that, we created a high Kabbalist the other day, and they have an ancient tome of history and maps. So I believe, I don't know what their intelligence score was in the end. I believe it was actually quite low. I think it was 10, and we give them +2 for the tome. So we're going to roll. And I rolled a 19, which is actually over 12. So it means the roll failed. And it failed, and there's another table for this, by less than 10. So much of the information that I'm going to think up as the person who is creating this particular major location is correct. However, I'm missing important details, or I'm wrong about a specific but basic detail. Examples would be a character who's basically correct about the Goblin Cave, but thinks that it is much farther to the east than it really is, or the Wizard's Tower, which is actually long abandoned and now haunted by the undead. So I will say that there is a temple here of the Storm God, and it is run by an evil priest that sacrifices humans. That would be very much in keeping with sword and sorcery lore. However, since it is basically correct, it is a temple. Yeah. And it is for the storm god, but it is abandoned, and now there are the ghosts of those that have been sacrificed. and they are basically rampaging around this temple, and if you enter, they will assault you. So that would be something that would come in here. Then the next person comes in, and we roll again a d6, and it's a 1. And this means we rolled a major city. They have to put it actually someplace else. So it's important that it's not only grouped in one area, they actually have to go to the opposite end of the map. And they also place a major city. We're going to place it here, scaling it down. This is another major city. And they say that they heard about it, and this would be a charisma check, because hearing works like this. Often characters learn about a location from travelers in other villages. Unlike the myths and legends implied in the learned category above, this category represents gossip, warnings, and hints which are circulating in the village right now, not ancient history. So you make a charisma check. I think charisma was actually 12 or 13 for this particular character. And I rolled a 19 again. Okay, so again, I fail. So basically, again, I know something about the city. I heard people talking about it, but I misinterpreted some of it, or some information was missing. So basically, this is how this is done. And you go around the table. Everybody places a major location. We place one more. We rolled another 1. That's boring. We rolled another 5. That's boring as well. We rolled another 1. Now we rolled a 6. That is a source of power. So we're going to take a source of power. However, we want to specify this. Something that looks like a source of power. Yeah, we're gonna take this. Gonna put it here. So down here, so basically in another area. And a source of power is described as extremely dangerous and sought after centers of magical energy. So this is sword and sorcery, of course, where magic is always dangerous. So this could be that there is kind of like people go there and they vanish. So this hex is 10 miles across. So people go there and there is something weird happening there, you know. So something happens when people go there. And that is the source of power, because it's kind of evil, you know, people vanish. So this could be something that I come up with, and basically then we check, and I say I haven't seen this, I haven't been there, but I've heard about it as well. Charisma check. This time it's a 5, so I am correct. I'm actually very correct, because I succeeded by less than 10. The character is right about the nature of the location, but there can still be mysteries there. If the character said that a goblin cave was in the east, it is indeed there, but the character still doesn't know the cave's layout or just who is in charge of the goblins. So I know that people vanish, and that basically as you approach this area, you sometimes see kind of like, it's like a mirage, and a sandstorm arises. So I would say even sandstorm, and then you are enveloped and people vanish. And then the sand basically subsides, the storm subsides, the sand lands on the ground again, but there are no traces visible. So I, as a dungeon master, have just rolled a 5 for that particular character, for this particular player's description. So I know 2 things. Number 1, there's a desert here. That's important. And also, I know that sandstorms happen and then people vanish. And now I walk away with this information. I know it's correct because I rolled a 5, but I now can come up with what's happening there. And of course, now we would go around the table and everybody would take one location that's not their own and embellish it by 1 point. And again, you would roll. They say, oh yeah, and I heard, or I met someone, or I've been to that city, and so on and so forth. And then again, you roll and you see how much truth is in whatever they're saying. So this way you keep up the mystery, but you also, again, get a feeling for what people would like to experience. And that's very important. Okay, so now you take this map and you go home. And now you know a couple of things. Number one, there is a desert here. So you know that this part of the map is a desert. See, do we have anything that signifies desert? But first of all, we're going to say there is a path, because there is actually a road, and these are two major cities. So I will just say that they are basically actually, we're going to take this. Okay. We're going to remove this path. And we're going to make it a little bit different. First of all, we're going to make it a little bit wider. We're going to change the color to a little bit lighter. And then we're going to, whoops, maybe that's a little bit too wide. We're going to start here and we're going to take it there. So there is a well-defined road between these. I'm not even sure if I have any symbols that I can use for land. In here, I don't think so, actually. I thought that there was types of land. That's interesting, because I always thought that you could add certain types. Ah, here we are. I knew it. So we're gonna use this brush and we're gonna go for this kind of color, and we're gonna turn this into a desert. So it's also quite clear that we have kind of like a desert happening here. Maybe actually not this thing. Ah, okay. But here is kind of like a desert over here. And then I take this home, and then I would start filling this with minor locations. So to kind of make it possible for people to journey, you would put in maybe a village here or there. And they also have suggestions for minor locations that you would add. Minor locations are created by the game master to take the group's shared setting and make it more exciting, mysterious, and dangerous. The GM makes up a number of minor locations and sprinkles them all over the map. So that's basically what you are supposed to do. And with regard to minor locations, you get a table to roll on. So what type of location is this? And we're just gonna go by the numbers. We're actually going to pretend that we're doing this now. So we roll a d8 first. And we roll a 7. An area of extremely difficult terrain, such as a fire swamp, rushing river, or deep ravine. So we're going to put this here. And we're going to put in a ravine. And of course, this is something that this part of the map would not be shown to players, because obviously that is part of the mystery. So you would now create a second version of this map that is your map. And basically what we're now going to do is we're going to add, come on, a ravine. And it's super dangerous, so we're gonna, oops, that's a big ravine. I'm gonna put it in here. And this is basically something that they will come across in this area. So as they journey, then this means that this is, they either have to go around, which means an additional 10, 20, 30 miles, or they have to somehow, because they cannot actually go across the lake, or they could go across the lake, you know, then that would be another challenge. Then let's see who lives at that location of the ravine, if there is anyone there. No living things dwell here, but the spirits of the dead might be present. Again, you know, you can see how it feels on the day if somebody senses something, or if somebody says, oh, well, you know, this is kind of spooky. You can describe it in whichever way you want. And then they might even say, oh, this is so eerie, I believe that there are creatures there. What makes this location interesting? Another d8. It's a 5. A magical item from legend is housed here, or at least was at one time. So as you can see, you get to do a lot with these randomized tables. If you want to, and if you can, you could also take a look at Shadow Dark, because they've also got really lovely overland hex map tables. So you could say, as you wander across, so basically they want to go here. Okay, so you decide for each hex. You have a hex terrain, 2d6. And let's say you want to describe this part over here. So let's see what kind of information we have here. It's an ocean. Okay, we're not going to do this. It's a 6. That's grassland. So that's nice. So we're just going to put in some nice grassland over here. So this one is actually grass. So this hex is grass. You could then also use the danger level. If you play Shadow Dark, then you would normally do this. And then you roll on the new hex. And this is a 7. And it means it's the same as the current terrain. So I like this because it's not like, oh my God, every terrain is super different and everything is always a catastrophe, because in real life, this isn't also the case. So we now go to the next one. And that is a 9. And this is current terrain plus 2 steps. So that would be current terrain, grassland plus 2 steps. That would be a river. So now we're going to add a river. But basically, that we're already experiencing, and we're saying, oh, there's a lake over here. So we're just going to say it starts over here and it crosses our path over here. And bam, you have created 2 hexes, because I do think it makes sense to have 2 hexes. We've also accidentally connected it to a water feature that already exists. Basically, we should actually do this differently, because that is an ocean. So it would actually run like so. And then end in the ocean. So basically it starts here. And more likely than not, you would have at least 1 mountain in here, because they usually come from the mountains. We're just going to put 1 mountain in here. So we can say, okay, over here is actually a mountain from which this stream springs forth, and that's the one that we hit here. And this way you can create, and I mean, you don't have to use necessarily a shadow dark. There are plenty of even free books and free tables that you can use to populate your map, because you should also revisit this whole adding new stuff for by the players and for the players, and adding major locations. But sometimes it's a bit nicer if you can also say, okay, guys, and look at this. Here is some part of the map. This is where you will be exploring. So I would say even go here and make a decision how this path, this road fares, because you could imagine that there may be another river coming in here, so that it becomes a living scenery. And I will be very open. In the beginning of my gaming career, I really did not like the idea of using tables to roll on, to create terrain, to create ideas, to create motivations, because I felt that this was too, I don't know, it just felt like I had no agency. But the more experienced I have become over the last 30 or odd 34 years or 35 years, and the more I have played and run games, the more I have come to like the idea of sometimes just rolling a die. That doesn't mean that players don't have agency, or I as a DM am at the mercy of the dice, because even if you really don't like the result, you just don't have to go with it. But sometimes, or quite often, rolling on a table sparks ideas that you wouldn't have had otherwise, or it gives you something like real life. You can't plan everything in real life either. Sometimes you're just given a hand, you're dealt this hand, you have to live with it. But how you deal with it, that is what makes it interesting, and what makes the challenge. And I think this is a nice blend. I really like how Beyond the Wall did it, and I also like, and really like how Through Sunken Lands does it. And I hope that by showing you these examples, you kind of get a feeling if this is for you, or even like maybe you want to try it out. There is a quick start guide for Beyond the Wall, I believe, that doesn't cost anything, where you can actually just do this and have some fun. And like I said, and this is very important, you don't need to be Picasso to be able to make these things on the fly. You can even use tools that cost nothing. Or if you as a group really go in for this and say, yes, this is what we want to do, pitch in. This is 20 euros. If you split it across 5 people, between 5 people, then each one has to pay 4 euros, and then you have a license, a perpetual license, and you can do this. So I hope you found this useful. Keep on gaming. Talk to you soon. Bye.